All right, can you intro it in? We'll do the best we can, just explain what's happening, and I'll try to let people know.
Yeah, no, I posted in the group already that we're going to go on YouTube and we'll share it live. So share the recording afterwards. All right, guys. So if you're with us on YouTube, welcome to our YouTube live channel. If you have been sitting waiting on Facebook and the group for the last 15 or so minutes, trying to figure out what's going on, we for whatever reason cannot get this to launch live in Facebook, no matter what we've tried, this way, that way, the other. So it could be that in whatever happened yesterday, it got screwed up. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this here live on YouTube, and then well, if you're watching this in the group, that means that we posted the recording of this live from earlier today in the group. So I guess it kind of feeds perfectly into the topic that we wanted to create today. Wow, kind of wild. So, guy asks me every time, he's like, "So, what do you want to talk about?" And we just kind of like brainstorm and this and that. And I was like, "Look, I've been talking to a lot of you, both clients and prospective clients, and just friends and things like that. And it seems like there are a lot of people dealing with just a lot of stuff, and it feels heavy at times. It feels overwhelming at times, frustrating, all of it, right? You name it. And there's this sense that like this weight is just sitting on top of us, and life just keeps getting crazier and crazier. And it almost doesn't feel like there's some light at the end of this tunnel. It just feels like it's just going to get crazier and crazier. And every time you think we're out of one thing, we go into the next thing, and it's just a never ending barrage. So, and then, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, like the three largest social media and Messenger and three largest channels, all go down yesterday for a majority of the day. And then now this. So it's just really
Now this.
and now this. So it's just funny, I guess, how all this stuff works. And with everything that happens, I guess a perspective is everything, right? Like the stories we tell ourselves about our world, about ourselves, are what our reality is. So you can either laugh at things like this, or you can get really pissed off at things like this, or whatever your mode. But that's what we kind of wanted to dive in and explore today is what's happening, right? So nothing I'm going to tell you here I want you to hear as this is fact. This is not me telling you like this is what's happening in the world today. This is just from having done a lot of work on self and being in amazing communities with amazing teachers, very, very tapped in human beings. What I'm going to share with you are what is kind of happening globally through our evolution, I guess, as humans. And then the other piece, which I think is more what you guys will probably be interested in, is, how do we deal with is the wrong word, but that's what came to me. But how do we grow from these events and the heaviness and the darkness sometimes, and the anger and the sadness and frustration and all that? Like, how do we actually use what's happening to elevate our consciousness? Because at the end of the day, I mean, if you're listening to us, I think you're kind of playing that game, right? Like, you want to learn how to find the deeper aspects of yourself, to find the truer piece of you, connect deeper to your soul, to intuition, to godliness, to all of it. So that's kind of going to be where we're going to go today. Anything you want to add in there?
Still trying to get people
You're
over.
still, guys still being triggered by tech stuff.
I'm actually not that triggered. I just, I know people are trying to figure it out in the group, so I'm just trying to get it to them. It is what it is at this point in time.
Natalie says, my environment is triggering the bejesus out of me lately. Yeah. And
Yeah.
like, if you're listening to us on YouTube, we are actually seeing your comments. So feel free to drop them in there. How many of you guys would resonate with that? Like you really are feeling the heaviness of it all? And just let us know there. And while you guys are doing that, so we can kind of get some reflection from everyone, I want to just start. I'll just start sharing, what I'm seeing, feeling is happening in the world, and why we're so, whiplashed by everything that's happening. This is the part that has been prophesized by many, many amazing people, as well as spiritual gurus, channels, people who would just have connection to a lot of what's happening in the world. And everyone keeps prophesizing that this is the time. This is like what we're going through right now is that final stage where humans are going to evolve into not a new species, but evolve to a point where we will start living life and we will walk around in the world, and the world will be a profoundly different experience for all of us. And one thing that I know, and this is why I say, like, it's always interesting, what they say, what's out is in, what's in is out, like, right? So as what we experience inside is also what's happening outside, and what's experienced outside is also happening inside. I can just look at my evolution, right? And things that I've experienced. And the biggest transformations of my life never showed up with, someone walking over to me, like petting me and going, all right, Elon, so now we're going to transition into this other beautiful place. Would you like some champagne as we traverse into this other magical land of yours? No, I personally have not had those kind of transformational experiences. Big ones, maybe you have, but it's saying that we're off. Whatever, let's just roll with it. So I know for me, when a new energy is wanting to come in, or a new pattern or something, however you want to call it, right? Like a up leveling, there's an old energy and a new energy. And the old energy has been there for most of us for decades, right? This is not something new. This is not something that you created last Tuesday that you're like, all right, I really want to, right? These are like ancient, some of them not even yours, could be from different lineages and genetic lines and all that kind of stuff. And when you begin to create that shift, the old energy doesn't go and go, oh, you're wanting to create that new, here you go. Here you go, new energy. Come on in. Here's our home. I'll see you guys later. It's like, fuck off. This is where I'm at. This is my home. You don't belong here. Get the hell out. And so what you start to realize is like, why? Why is it such a struggle to shift from one energy to the other? And it's simply this, like, the human mind, which is what kind of controls most of our everyday lives, is only interested in your survival. It doesn't give a shit if you're happy. It doesn't give a shit if you're wealthy. It doesn't give a shit if you're fulfilled. It doesn't care about anything. If you're surviving a crappy relationship, if you're surviving an awful job environment, if you're surviving and you're eating junk food and all that kind of stuff, it will convince you that this is the right path. We are alive. We are surviving. Let's just keep moving forward. Right? And so now you're saying, I don't want that anymore. Okay? I don't want that habit, that pattern, that energy frequency. I want to bring something else in. But the mind has already figured out how to have you survive with this whole thing in place. And now you're saying to the mind, I'm going to remove this and I'm going to bring in this new variable, which the mind's like, I don't know what this new variable is going to do. Maybe this variable is going to kill us. You might think it's good, but what if we throw it in and we're going to die and da, 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 right? So it's not interested. And because of that non-interest, you have this struggle. And the larger the transformation, the struggle will depend on that shift, right? Like the bigger the shift you want, the struggle, especially if you guys notice, like right before you pierce through, right? Like right before that final, like into that place where you can breathe again. And you're like, oh my God, thank God I got through that, right? Right before then, doesn't it get really, really intense? Like you might get really sick. You might have some sort of accident, right? Like something's going to happen where you're like, it just hits you so hard. You're like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. And in the moment where you're like, I can't deal with this, can't deal with this, can't deal with this anymore, something happens and you pierce through. Now, I don't know if that's your, darkest before the dawn. Yeah, Claire says. So like, let me know as you guys are listening to this, does this resonate? Like, is this accurate in your transformational experience? As you're going on the spiritual journey, think of the biggest things that have happened. Have they come with that kind of, experience? Now, if this is what's happening within, and I have not only done this personally, but I've taken thousands of people through these experiences, so I have a lot more data, right? Yeah, story of my life, exactly, right? So if that's what's happening within, my view is that that is what's also happening out here, right? The micro is also the macro. So now humans are going through an evolutionary shift. Like the biggest, not just an evolutionary shift, like the biggest evolutionary shift we have ever experienced as human beings. In other words, like every system that you currently know, from the way we communicate to the way we work to the governments that have been running, I mean, all of it is going to shift, break, and something new will arise. Okay, now, if you're thinking that that process is going to be any different than you having your own spiritual awakening process, like, really? To me, everything that I'm seeing, I'm like, wow, this is exactly what this whole thing, I can't even imagine that it would look any other way than it does today. So like as all this shit is happening, I'm not going, oh my God. I'm just like, whoa, this is how this is going down. Right? Now, bro, anything you want to throw in on that?
I could, but I'm going to take you in directions you may not want to go. So finish your thought and then
Okay.
I'll
So now here's where I kind of want to shift the conversation is that's all well and good, Elon. Like, I get that that's all happening, but irrelevant. I'm still being whiplashed like a loose rag and a windstorm, and it's uncomfortable. So if this is going to last another 2, 3, 4, 5 years, like, I don't know that there's any more that I can handle. Right? And you might be there, and that's okay. I'm just going to let you guys acknowledge yourself here for a second. If you're following our work, whether you're new to us, whether you've been with us for years, like, I just want to let you know that you're already on a very, very different trajectory and plan than most other humans who are getting whiplashed out there, right? Just by the virtue of you being here, that should be an acknowledgement to you to go, wow, I've really called into my life something that will help me shift through this. Because asking right questions will lead you to certain teachings, whether it's books, videos, teachers, etc. And here you are, right? So, more years of this.
just want to put this up.
Yeah, like that right there is what I believe every single human is actually going through. It's like, no, I can't do any more of this. Like, please let it stop.
Can I offer also a little perspective here too on that front,
Yeah.
guys? So number one, if you're here, it is a heavy conversation because we're in highly pressurized time, right? And so just for a moment, just take a breather, do a little shaky, and bring your awareness down towards your body. And I just want to relate to you that throughout history, it's something we teach in our event, but our evolution is contingent upon humans' ability to continue to experience more so that they can gain mastery over lots of different perspectives. And so if we're all part of one consciousness, and you probably heard this thing where like God is realizing itself. Well, it's the collective consciousness is realizing itself through all of us, right? It's almost like we're all these like computer terminals having different experiences, and we connect to the internet and we send our data up. And so that's kind of the role that all of consciousness is playing. And so this proliferation of experiences is kind of like our divine mission, if you want to call it that, right? And so when we resist new experiences, when we resist a shift in our perspective, we're almost like going against our order, against this like divine mission, so to speak. And so, part of what we have been struggling with as humanity is this process of learning to accept and surrender. We're so conditioned in our culture today to think through problems. There's got to be some solution here, right? But you guys can say in the chat box, like, how many of you guys are dealing with stuff in your life that you've given a lot of time and effort to try to like figure out, triangulate how to do it better, how to do more, how to do it different in your mind, and yet you kind of find yourself in the same place over and over again. And so we want to take into consideration that this mind is not going to be the tool that we have used or will ever use to get to our next path of evolution. And so I want to point out, pretty much every major event, including things like in the 1940s, World War II, imagining the mindset of an individual who went through that 5-year period, watching all this happen, watching Nazi Germany, watching these incredibly very scary technological advances that hadn't occurred, watching the atomic bomb drop, it behooves one to understand what that feels like. Maybe those of us, Elon and I lived in New York City. Most of our friends and family worked out of New York City when 9/11 happened. I know that was an impactful event on the globe, but you understand people who are directly experiencing that with their loved ones at a deeper impact. Like that's the only thing I can relate to in my life. And now, of course, COVID being this next major event. However, out of every one of those periods of time, and I'll specifically point out again, World War II, we immediately see thereafter a massive explosion and acceleration in culture, consciousness, and technology. Okay. And we are, whether you know it or not, moving away from the industrial age and are very clearly into the informational decentralization age, which has to do with systems of the past that used to support the consciousness of industry that can no longer support the consciousness of the information age. Mm. And so you're watching these systems fail, and an opportunity, right, in the culture and with this virus and whatever you believe about it, that it literally cannot support people. And what happens, again, there's many books written on this. I can point you at some if you want. That what happens is as these structures start losing stability, it's like everything else that's losing its life. It wants to find ways to go on, and so it starts taking resources from any place that it can, whether that's taxes or human capital or whatever it might be. That's just the way that it is. But like, this is not to scare you. It's just to say that this is not the first time this has happened in our history. It won't be the last time this happened in our history. I want to remind you that the industrial age is really only 200 years of a very long human history, and the psychology that was built around it is just that age. And so we are in this like middle ground transition of like the fabric of our reality kind of being really tested and pulled and stretched. And so the fear that naturally arises in the system, really maybe even the terror that arises naturally in the system, really what we want to point back at is like, if you want to massively grow during this period of time, either you get sucked into the story and you start trying to solve it from the mind, right? Again, I want to point out more at your life and how you may have tried to do this and notice that you kind of come back to the same space over and over again, versus like what is it that I get to practice on a daily basis that when experiences come into my thing, maybe the first thing is the resistance, because I think that's natural for everybody, even Elon and I, is like, right, like what is going on, and then
Yeah.
mental resistance. And then the next part is like, okay, it's here. This is the experience I'm directly having. Let me accept it. And then how do I do practices that actually allow my body to surrender into it, relax, and what you come out the other end with is always a greater experience of well-being, safety, and liberation. Always. No fail. Every single time. And so when we're being pressurized like this, not just on the individual level, but on the cultural level, this is what we end up seeing. Again, historically, I point again at World War II. I want to point out, like, I'll say this for the States. We basically went from, like, 40s, women's no rights, Stepford wives in the 50s, to Woodstock and acid and going to the moon, and the consciousness movement and Eastern philosophy landing, Beatles and Eastern philosophy landing in Western culture, and all that giant shift we see happen in about a decade's worth of time right after an event like that. And again, there's many points like this in our history that we can point to where stuff like this happened. And then you see a massive progression in human civilization. So you can either see it as like, oh my God, it's all falling apart, or this is the natural flow of things. This is how all things grow. They come into being, they have their time, they go back into the ground, they evolve, and they come out newly. And so, in our perspective, that is what's happening. And the real question is, how do you participate in that?
Yeah.
Where you can grow, not just in this body, but like I want you to know, like Elon and my perspective is, it's like what we're investing in this body pays off in the next body too,
Yeah.
because your consciousness, that part of you, is infinite, and it is going to show up in, hypothetically, in some other physical form. And your Akashic record, which is really the record of your soul, it carries on with it the information and experiences that it's already had. That would just make sense, right? It's like when you switch phones, you take your data with you. You don't want to start it over again, right? So, and again, our technology replicates our inner spiritual beingness, and so we can see the way that we're developing technology is actually the way we can be developing ourselves in here. And that's why these times are really, if seen through that lens, and if you learn how to pierce this kind of like illusion of reality that our mind and society is constantly creating, you start seeing that every pressurization is actually the biggest opportunity you've ever had in your life.
You said the word mental resistance, and I had this amazing image. Like, I don't know if this happened to you, but I actually just happened to me yesterday because I started a new book, and I think mental resistance is this block, like, because this mind wants everything to be the same. Even when someone receives new information, I'm not even talking like you drink ayahuasca and all of a sudden your body's like, oh my God, what the fuck did you put in me? You're trying to kill me. Or you do that with anything that you put right in your body. Even information, like when you read a book, there's a part, and I noticed it very active yesterday. It was like, no, it's not like this. Right? It starts to try to tear apart this thing because what it's bringing through doesn't fit into the construct of your mental landscape and reality. So you're like trying to rip it apart. And I realized that our work, because people had pointed to it in the comments, like our work is very challenging for certain bodies. Like physically, it could be challenging sometimes. And ayahuasca is very similar. When someone drinks ayahuasca, you've raised your hand and you're like, hey, I'm going on this journey, right? Like, I trust this benevolent spirit and medicine to heal me. But the healing never, and I mean never, looks like how you want it to or what you thought it was going to look like. And when stuff is ready to leave your body because it is no longer serving you and where you want to be going, how it gets extricated from that body, it just does, right? And so when people are commenting that they haven't been feeling well or got sick or anything like that, if you think about it, it's like a withdrawal symptom. Simple analogy. Even if you drink coffee every single day, right? And this has been your lifeline. Try not to drink coffee for 3 days. You tell me what's happening. Some of you will have like flu-like, I'm coming down with a cold symptoms.
So true.
You will have a pounding headache. You will feel discombobulated. Your system goes into withdrawal, right? So now when we do our weekends, that's what happens to people, right? You allow enough safety and you sit in this field and it starts to release certain things in your body. Guys, the way these things come out, you're going to feel despair or levels of sadness. You're going to cry uncontrollably at times. You're like, why the fuck am I crying right now? And it's like, this is how this stuff leaves your body. Some of you will literally, and I know some of you got in touch with me, like you'll lay in bed for 2 days. Energetic work is taxing on the body, right?
Can be. Can be.
Can be.
Can also be also very enlivening for the body.
Exactly. So, and this is why, like some people look at Guy and I and they're like, oh my God, you guys are in great shape. That's part of it, right? Like this body doesn't need to hold all the emotional baggage and the traumas and the lineage stuff. Like it doesn't have to hold it anymore. I left it out there. I just did my scan again today. Like I have I go to a place to get an IV drip. They have a machine where you can do a scan. Just in the past month, I went from 8% body fat to 7% body fat. Crazy. Like shape that my body's in is just absolutely insane. And it's like people keep asking me, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And I hate to tell them, I'm like, I don't do that much. They're like, how many days a week do you work out? I was like, I don't know. I play tennis like 3-4 days a week. I exercise maybe another 2. I don't know. Like it's not that much. Well, what's this? Is that? I'm like, it's none of those things, right? It's like alignment and finding that place inside that guides all of these other pieces. So I just want to let you know, like for all of you guys that were in it, and might be in it right now, like this is why having support as you go through this process is vitally important. Because notice how when this stuff comes up and you don't feel well, what comes up? Not your higher self, not like, oh my God, this is so good for me. You're like, oh my God, when the fuck is this going to stop? And how the fuck do I get out of it? And what does that do? That literally pulls you back down into all the default modes because you stop the process and you go, I don't want to deal with this anymore. And so that's what's happening inside for you. And that's exactly what's happening outside for the world, right? So if you think about it, if that's the way people are and there's this change coming, what is going to happen? That old world is falling apart, literally crumbling. What is that pinging into people's system? Death, annihilation. So how are they going to respond? They're going to respond with, I need to survive. I need to protect myself. And that's what you see happening across every country in the world right now, right? This like old world mentality, literally hanging on for like dear life as the world that they know seemingly crumbles in front of their eyes. And it's like, guys, that world is over. There's nothing to hold on to. If you're
going back to,
and in the same thing in your life, if you're like expending energy to try to hold on to that stuff, it instead of like expending energy to find deeper states of alignment so the stuff could just fucking leave you with lightning speed, just think about where you're putting your focus and energy on. It doesn't need to be there anymore. That is why it's
it's also like, what's the future we're creating? If there's an anticipation in the social system that what's going to come next is going to be worse, we're going to inevitably create at least some variation of that. There's that line in the Matrix where he says, some minds have been hooked in for so long, they're so reliant on the system, they just can't unhook them, right? And to an effect, that's what we're seeing. And again, historically, reality is like what changes the shifting of the time is people passing. There's that old movie, The Dictator, with
Sacha Baron Cohen.
No, that's not that old. Much older. Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, Charlie Chaplin, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a line over there after they make him dictator, and he says he doesn't want that power. And if you don't know it, it's definitely worth a watch. But it just reminded me of something from that he says there. I can't recall right now. It's what actually I have a life goal to actually memorize that entire speech and be able to give it in person because it's such an impactful speech. So yeah, it's really yeah. He says like greed is the passing of death or the passing of time, and even though dictators might arise and all these things happen, like they die and we move on and life changes. So like that's part of life is the old and the new being together, clashing, and then learning from one another and shifting and transforming. We are living through unprecedented times, and at least the way I see it is like we have the greatest show, the front row seats to the greatest show on earth. Whether this is the end of the end of it all or just the beginning of it all,
Yeah.
I tend to lean into the beginning of it all. What a time to be alive and experience this and really be the type of people that create the bridge for the new world and unprecedented. So um, so just to kind of come back to, all right, so what, like, so what now? Like, because we all get the situation, and you'll see some people in the chat box. Obviously, not if you're watching this on replay, but a lot of people who've participated in our work. And here's the truth. Like Elon said, the way trauma goes into the body is the way that it comes out.
Mm.
Right. We have a lot of coping mechanisms and addictions that we use: coffee, sex, drugs, food, television, our phones, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like, when you get upset, you can feel how it's being compressed and held in the body, right? It's not like, like for some of us where we emote and maybe get a little freedom from that, but you actually feel like you're looping in the energy. It's not like it resolves. And so part of getting resolution is actually working together. Like I'll tell you flat out, from Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, even to this morning, my body is really, really under resourced, and I've been going through what feels like really deep levels of disappointment in my system, like things I remember from my childhood. I actually played a game on Saturday night, and I lost the game, and like this disappointment arose. It was already hanging in the background, but for whatever reason, this game got played, not a game we normally played, and it just triggered the ever living shit out of me. And that trigger from a stupid board game, I can either be like, wow, I can't believe I'm having this experience, or it's like, wow, this game got put here in my life on this path right now so I can see this aspect of myself. And it has to do with things from my childhood, it has to do with things with society, it has to do with expectations in my system, all these kind of things. And I could tell you, like, even me with all my awareness, all of Elon's awareness, like, I cannot get out of this by myself.
Yeah.
Okay. There are certain things. So there's like a distinction here I can make for you guys. There are certain things that arise in your system. And if you go sit in meditation, you do your practices, you're going to find ground again. You're just going to be like, oop, there's the ground. It's passing through my system. And it takes time to cultivate this level of awareness and to grow and expand in a capacity that part of you and that level of you can actually hold more and more, where you actually can do your individual work rather easily and get through things. But then, once in a little while, but in these times more than a little while, your system gets hit, and you know what it feels like when you're spiraling. You know how you know when you're spiraling? Because it's one thing is not optimal in your life, and you make it about everything.
Yep.
Suddenly, everything sucks. Your kids suck. Your relationships suck. You're fat in the mirror. Every food you're eating seems to put 2 pounds around your waist. Everybody on the road is driving like a fucking idiot. It's like everything that goes into disarray. And it's just like, what you got to get is like, the world is not doing that.
Hmm.
It is reflecting your own energy back to you in order to inform you that you're going into a situation here. That you're chaotic on the inside, it's becoming chaotic on the outside. I just want you guys to note this co-regulation that's happening with your reality. Because when you're feeling peaceful, you are Bob Marley, Buffalo soldiering down the road. You don't care how anybody's driving, right? So when we're in the spiral, chances are you're not going to get out of that by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, not in our experience, you just can't. Like, what you really need, what you really want, is another grounded, awakened system that can sit with you and help you co-regulate your system again. And this can be 5 or 10 minutes long. It's not a long process. And we teach this at our live events. We teach this in all the work that we do. And this is how we end up finding the ground again. So that's what I did this morning, feeling much more stable in my system, doing my own practices, and that's it. And so, I say that because we are in this time that like we are spiraling as a culture, and you're seeing our reality reflect that in the way that governments are reacting, and however you feel about that, whatever it is, right? But like we're seeing things that we've never seen before because the society is going like this. And so we got to realize that we are not going to co-regulate an entity like a government at one time. It's too big, right? It's like you're in a speedboat and there's like a ship liner out there, like a Carnival cruise liner out there. And I don't care if you bump the Carnival cruise liner, like it's not even going to feel that you're doing anything, right? It takes lots of people to start co-regulating to ground the system. And it's not as many as you think. We're not talking about like a 51% majority or anything like that. That's when it comes to spiritual energy, it's about 5 to 10% of a certain population being at a certain frequency, and then you get mass adoption. Again, this has historically been proven time and time again. So what you can do to regulate this environment is to regulate yourself and to learn how to do the type of practices that we teach here. Is there anything you want to add to this?
No, I love the boat analogy. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, you just you're not gonna change the trajectory of that boat by banging yourself into it. And so look, we also got to realize that everybody, again, it doesn't matter what side of an issue you're on. Everybody, just again, look at the fundamentals. The fundamentals are everybody is trying to get to a point of safety. Everyone gets there in a different way. And that's based on traumas they've experienced as children, perceptions they've had growing up, the conditioning that they took or didn't take, experiences that they think they had or didn't have. There's so many different multidimensional layers here that come into play. And so it behooves a person to try to get to your version of reality for other people to believe in it. Like, again, you've probably been attempting that your whole life with your family around a dinner table. It's like, how does it go? It doesn't go anywhere. And it's like Elon said, it's such a drain and leak of your energy. And so instead of cultivating inner energy, inner stability, where like all this can happen and it's just like kind of flying by you mostly, that's where you can go with that energy. But people like expel it out of their bodies, and then they're like, I feel so drained and under resourced. And then guess what? When you're under resourced, the parts in your system that have these traumatic beliefs find it very easy to hijack you.
Yeah.
Okay, very easy. It's the same like in society, right? As long as the news and media keeps scaring people, they become apathetic, they become resigned, and then they say, hey, go do this. And everyone's like, I'm too tired to go against it. I'm too tired to even be aware of it. Just do it. Just whatever it is, find just do it. And so in our system, it's the same way. If you don't cultivate this inner awareness, then you just get hijacked by your parts left, right, and center, and then it becomes even harder to get out of the spiral. So how many of you guys are like tracking, this thing? Okay. And so here's what we're going to tell you that no one else is going to tell you is that there's no overnight change for this, right? Like I'm about to tell you about how you can participate in some of our work, especially if you're new here, but I can tell you, we guarantee changes, transformations guaranteed. We don't guarantee the timeline. Okay, we don't guarantee the timeline. It is absurd to think that you're going to go do a 2-day event and then think that like no problem is ever going to arise in your life again. That's a delusional thinking, right? That's like, okay, I've been overweight my whole life. I'm going to intensely work out for Saturday and Sunday, and then I'm going to be back to perfect health. Like things don't work that way.
Yep.
We're here to give you guys access to certain practices, just like a personal trainer would be. They're like, hey, you're going to go to the gym. You got to get your heart rate up. You got to start eating some whole foods or nothing's going to change. I don't care what you do. And if you're not sleeping, guess what? Still nothing's going to change. Like there are certain fundamentals you got to know to be a healthy body and to be a healthy, energetic and spiritual body. There are certain fundamentals you got to know, or becoming a healthy spiritual body is nearly impossible. And that's going to also affect your physical body. Okay. So what we guarantee is you're going to learn those practices. Okay. So if you want to learn those practices, we've made it pretty easy here. We have 2 pathways that you can take to participate and learn these things. Okay. And the first one is joining our live events. We call our live event the Intuitive Mind Intensive. It's a 2-day event, and the next one's coming up on November 13th and 14th. If you want to go get the information for that, you want to buy a ticket, you can go to satoriprime.com/live, and that'll get you the ticket to our next event. You get immediate access to 6 hours worth of training. You can go through that multiple times. We guarantee you just that front end training alone is going to be like, holy shit, I had no idea. Okay, we have people come to our events. They're like, just that alone already has started dramatically changing my life. However, I will tell you what the best game in town that we have is. Okay, and the best game in town that we have is called Mindset Mastery. Okay, and this is a digital at-home program that you can do. We plan it as a 6-week program, and you can go through that program in your own time. It's 6 modules, 6 distinctions. It also includes 6 weeks of live group coaching with one of our with our most professional coach that we've ever trained. Okay, so she takes care of you guys there. And the reason I say it's the best game in town, it also includes an event ticket to the intensive that's coming up on November 13th and 14th. So you can get the best of all worlds, handle this, start handling this, and then come to the live event and we can take you up to a huge level. And right now it's about 6 weeks out from our event. So it's perfect timing for you guys to participate in that. If you want information to Mindset Mastery, just let us know. Just say Mindset Mastery in the comment box below or wherever you see this video, or reach out to our support team on Messenger and email. It doesn't matter. Say Mindset Mastery. Let us know. We'll get you the information. And then if you have any questions, we can do a follow-up and kind of walk you through the process. But that is the absolute best game in town, in my opinion. It's only a smidgen more than the live event ticket anyway, so you might as well do both. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, I think.
There's one other thing. So I obviously technical difficulties and whatnot. I did record a meditation for you guys called Rise Above. So if this conversation resonated with you and you find that you are being kind of like whiplashed by what is happening in the world, it's I'm going to say it's not even so much a meditation as a practice that I guide you through that then you can do with or without me. It's a fairly simple practice. Some people really enjoy the music and my voice, so they keep going back to it. But if you want to grab that as well, just put Rise or Rise Above in the comments whenever this thing is on Facebook. And if you don't have it already, people will give you access to that. Yeah, Alex was actually one of the first people that reached out to me and was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much for that." It's a very simple, beautiful practice because at the end of the day, here's where we're at. You're either reacting to the stuff that keeps getting thrown at you, or you respond from a place of alignment. If you react, the energy behind that action is going to be get rid of, like, I can't deal with this, get the hell out of here, right? So now there's this energy of like overwhelm and anger and frustration and sadness and da-da-da. And that energy is going to keep creating in your life circumstances that have you experience more of that anger, sadness, frustration, disappointment, etc., right? If, however, in those moments where you're like, really, the system is overcharged and it's intense, I get it. Like, I'm going through it too. Guys, we've been doing this work for 20 years. It doesn't make us immune to this. It just makes us a hell of a lot better equipped to deal with everything that's happening. And someone said it before, oh God, please let it not be another few years. I'm telling you right now, everything inside of me and everyone that I've spoken to, like, this is going to be around for a few more years. This is not going to end. Like, remember, everyone's like, yay, 2020, March of 2020, worst year ever. We'll get to 2021 and that'll be, here we are, October 2021. Where are you at?
Where are you at?
Was this the year that saved everything for you? Like, come on, like this, we're just in that stream right now. So either you're going to keep getting pummeled or you're going to learn some new methodologies that actually allow you to literally rise above all this energy. It doesn't mean disassociate. It doesn't mean stick your head in the sand and go, this shit doesn't exist. I'm a happy little clam. I'm a happy little clam. Like it's not that. It's with a high level of awareness to be able to see what is here, but not be in it to get like pulled in a million different directions. And when you're able to do that, now the energy behind things isn't reactionary. It's responding, not to what's out there, but to what's in here. And now you create more of that. So for those that go through the intuitive mind and you are releasing this stuff, like keep permissioning the stuff to be released. It
Yeah.
is no longer here to serve you. It is everything that has been stopping you from having the life that you've wanted. But when you try to manage it and all the management does is just keeps it bottled up inside. Like this work opens that lever and lets that thing go because you no longer need it. And where we're going, trust me, there's a lot of stuff that you no longer need. Someone gave me this beautiful analogy, which I always think of. It's like enlightenment, or that path to enlightenment is this, it's like a tunnel that narrows and narrows and narrows the closer you get to the end, right? So you start walking through the tunnel and you're like with all your luggage and all your stuff, and you're like, all this stuff is coming with me. And you start walking and then it just starts bumping up against the walls and you're like, crap, okay, I got to let go of something. And so you reluctantly let go of that bag, and you walk a little bit more and the thing keeps narrowing. You're like, shit, another one, till eventually you let it all go. And only you make it to the other side. None of this other stuff needs to come with you. So yeah, rise above is the meditation. And again, like, look, guys, for pennies on the dollar or a day, however you want to call it, you can actually have support in your life. Like, we've made it so easy to actually get live support here from coaches. You know yourself. You're going to buy another digital product. It's going to sit on your digital shelf, and you're not going to do jack shit with it. You know how I know that? Because that's what I would do. You're human. Like, that's just what's up. Don't make yourself wrong. Just know, like, okay, I'm not going to do that. This is why people go to the gym and hire personal trainers, because they walk. Otherwise, they're not going to come to the gym. A buddy one of my favorite things is this guy and his friend really wanted to go to the gym. They made a bet. Any day that you don't show up to the gym that we're supposed to be at the gym, you pay the other person $100. That was it. Flat. No argument, no this, just I miss a day, $100.
Urgency and integrity.
That's it. Like,
They
without
work.
accountability, we're all going to weasel our way out. So, get some accountability and start moving down this path. Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't feel good to be abused by what is happening out in the world right now. And most of it's not even yours to be abused by.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Alex said she sold all her furniture this week. Does that mean she's enlightened? One step closer. Yeah, it's that old line with Tyler Durden said, the things you own end up owning you. Yeah, it's just like society, right? Like Elon was saying, it's like our consciousness is hooked into parts of the culture, of the culturation, of nationalism, of patriotism, and all these actually relatively new ideas that have become so accustomed to our way of living that when the structure starts breaking and whatever is hooked into it, that part starts shaking and going like, well, that's what I've based all my sense of safety on, right? An illusion, a made up structure. Like, money is made up. It requires our faith for it to be valuable.
Yeah.
Nations require our faith and our allegiance, right? Like, for those who are Americans, you pledged your allegiance to a flag. You weren't even consciously aware of what it is that you were doing over and over again, right? It was like saying, I'm going to give my sovereignty to this thing, and I'm gonna trust it to protect me. And so when that starts breaking down, or the parent turns bad, and starts hitting the child, that sense of safety is gonna clearly be triggered. But that can be seen at every level with the stuff that we own, with our furniture. So yeah, I mean, I'm joking here, but like in a way, it is like the moment you get rid of stuff, you're gonna find new freedom in your life, and you're gonna be like, wow, I really have more room to move. I moved to San Diego 9 years ago with a single luggage. I lived in a friend's garage for 6 weeks without owning anything, barely any money in the bank account. Some of the happiest time of my entire life.
Hmm.
Like anything was possible from there. Anything was possible, right? And I moved to a place that I didn't even know I was moving to. I was just like, hey, I'm going to go here with like very little, and an entire world and community and people and teachings, like all these incredible things that opened up to me. And it was just that. It was just letting go of old things that I knew really, really well and stepping into a whole new thing. We are highly adaptable creatures. If there's anything I want to just promote here, is if we've seen something extremely positive during this period of time, is how quickly we can make a decision to change and see social change across the entire planet. And granted, it was social distancing, masking, and staying home, but we did it, everybody together. What if we pointed that at like getting off fossil fuels for 6 months
Hmm.
or transforming the way that education is done together, or large populations of people were just like, we didn't have jobs, but it was like, my heart is in this. I'm going to give value to society. And somehow we figured out how to get value back and forth, reciprocity for people who took on big projects together culturally, right? Like you can see how things can change. I even want to say like the idea of somebody being employed is an industrial age invention. Prior to that, everyone was an entrepreneur, a farmer, worked for themselves, worked through trade. It was very commonplace for tens of thousands of years in society, right? So it's like these are not difficult things for us to adjust to. And we've proven time and time again that we can during different periods of time. The real question is, are we going to start again reacting like we have made a lot of bad decisions during this period of time? Or as the individual, are we going to learn to be responsive to what's happening in our system, bring that safety internally, and then watch our world start reflecting that? And the more people that do that, the softer things are going to get around here, and the more compassionate and loving they are. So, the game really is like, what role are you going to play? Are you going to contribute? You're going to contribute to making more noises out there and more waves and making it more difficult for others to find that safety? Or are you going to do your work and make it, and you can contribute by adding safety to our culture? That's a choice we all have to make right now. And truly, 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 I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I wish Elon and I could do work for you. I really do. I wish that what we've done with our lives and what we've learned and the communities that we have, we could just say, hey, we got you. We'll do all the healing for you, right? Because that's, again, what we've become accustomed to. It's like, hey, I need a silver bullet. You guys create one for me so I can feel safe again. But like, it's like no one can do that work for you. No one can do this work for you. We can guide you towards the practices that enable for that level of freedom to start opening up in your life. And you got to do the work. You got to put in the time. It's just how it goes. Okay. So again, like the people we want in our programs are not the fly by night people. Although it's cool if you want to, dip your toes in the water and see what it feels like, that's fine. That's why we have a really low entry barrier so people can test it out. Ultimately though, it's really, really the people who commit and they see it's like, becoming healthy is not something you do in 7 to 10 days. It's, you can do that intensively in order to set yourself on a different trajectory, right? Like you want to go on a diet, you want to do a fast, like those are great tools for shifting the future and changing timelines and going in a different trajectory. But then once you get there, you're gonna be like, good, well, I fasted for 10 days. Like now let me go have 25 pizzas, whatever the hell I want. Now it's like, okay, let me use this as a jump off point, as a leverage point to change my life, to make this something that I do every single day. Like Elon is saying about his health, like it's easy because it's in his alignment to go play tennis 3-4 days a week and work out and stretch and do all these things. Like the people who have great bodies are the people who love who love working out and moving their bodies, right? The people who struggle with it, you bring them to the gym and it's, oh, woe is me and everything is so difficult. And I'm not making fun of them. I'm just saying like that's the thing. It's finding these points of alignment. If you find that around food, also going to be a lot easier, right? If you find that around your spirituality, also a lot easier. But a lot of times we don't even give ourselves the chance to really find out how we feel about something. We have a preconceived notion before we even get there, like a child who won't eat broccoli. No, I'm not going to eat it. Well, how do you know? No, I'm not going to eat it. Just like put it in your mouth, but also realize like maybe putting that broccoli in your mouth one time is not enough. Like it's just not enough. You gotta give it maybe add a little seasoning this time.
It's like a kid. They're like, I tried it. I hate broccoli. Never gonna try it again.
Yeah. Sometimes it takes a while for things to taste good. And it's just like when you've been doing things a certain way, there is a transitionary period. I mean, spontaneous transformation happens all the time, all the time. And no one can guarantee you when that moment's going to be. And I just want to say this last piece here, because this is the truth as I have come to know it, is there's a divine timing for your experience. Many of you guys are on a merry-go-round and you want to get the fuck off. You're like, I've been on this shit for way too long. I don't enjoy the music. It's spinning too fast, and you want to get off. But like, truth is, if you jump off that thing while it's moving, probably going to break something, right? It's going to hurt pretty bad. So like, there are things in my life that I have been very trapped by, anger, and like being one of them. And I can tell you, like, I want off that ride so bad. Like, I value peace more than anything in the world. I'm just like, leave me the fuck alone. Don't talk to me. I would be a perfect monk. Like, it's so easy for me to be a monk. I sat in 10-day silent meditations. It was like, for some people, it's such a difficult thing. I was like, this is blissful. No one's talking to me. No stimulus. Just me here with my experience. Heaven. Right? And so I want off that ride so bad. 20 years of work, still got to work at it every single day. But like, I asked my teacher a few years ago, I said, why is this so hard? She goes, it's just not time yet. There's still more for me to learn from that consciousness and that energy. And great, like, I become more grateful to it because I realize when you've dealt with something for so long in the world, for so long in your life, when you get out of it, you are like, the level of peace or whatever it is that's waiting for you on the other side, that you will know will be greater than what most 99% of the human population has tasted, because you've dealt with that experience for such a long period of time that you've learned everything about it, all its entrapments, and then all the gifts that come out of living with that and becoming present with it and reintegrating it into the system. And so if you haven't read in the group, like over the last few days, I wrote a whole thing about trauma. And this will be the last thing I say. Like, the trauma is seen wrong as like something we got to get rid of or fix or anything like that. But it's really about a type of communication device that our body and our environment and nature uses in order to inform us about how to evolve from this experience. And then you basically become masterful at that area of life, and it becomes a way for you to connect and teach and become valuable in this life. And so that's what this game is really all about. I really urge you to go read that post. It's kind of got channeled through me in the morning, and a lot of people have gotten value from it. So check it out. All right, guys. So I think we'll shift away here. We'll end it. Again, the reminder on the live event, satoriprime.com/live if you want to grab your ticket. If you want to participate in Mindset Mastery, you can really join up at any time. Right now would be a especially good time, though, going towards the live event. So just let us know if you want the details. Comment Mindset Mastery. Again, it's just a smidge more than the ticket, but the ticket's included. So you might as well just take the jump and get this amazing experience along with it. Okay. We love you guys very much. We're sorry for the tech issues today. Hopefully Facebook is somewhat back to its usual self next week. We love you very much. We'll see you next time.
Bye, everyone.